Alright boys and girls, it's been about 40 decades since I last made a video, especially one with a voiceover, but yeah, it do be like that sometimes. So today, I am back, finally, with a pretty damn good race here. So, a couple days ago, me and the boys were doing some GT Enduro, and happened to get into this race at Spawn. Now you can see me here in the Audi R8, I'm currently leading the field. After having started on pole, and two people I'll be racing against are Hordes and AMS B3astShadow. I'll be referring to as Kieran in this video because it's just easier, really. So, yeah, not really much to say so far. As you can see, myself and this Porsche behind me sort of have a bit of a gap to the rest of the field as they are currently fighting, but you will see that's going to change pretty soon. Now, if the quality of the recording isn't that great, I do apologize for that. I'm playing on PC, recording it with my capture software, then putting it through the video editor, and then uploading it to YouTube, so who knows what kind of compression is going to absolutely kill the quality of this video. And yeah, the editing may also not be that great. I'm using the built-in video editor for Windows 10, so we'll just have to see. But right about now you can see behind me the M8, that's Hordes. He's made his way up into second place now. I believe he started in P4, so he is now going to be joining me, and I'm not going to be able to shake him for the remaining 8 laps of this race. He is going to play a very large role in this race, and the 4GT you saw there in 4th just behind the Porsche, that's Kieran, who has now also made his way back up into P4. I believe he started P5, I'm not too sure though. But yeah, so far first lap, pretty uneventful for me for the most part. Made it through every turn, pretty much uncontested as I make my way into Blanchimont here, completely overestimating it. I'd driven some Assetto Corsa a couple days ago, and that turn was basically flat in the more modern R8, just chuck it in. As you can see, Hordes misses his braking point there, goes for the cheeky through the chicane overtake. Kieran gets tangled up with the Porsche behind, so he loses some time as well. But yeah, Hordes and I, we were in comms for this race, so it was all good. But yeah, that puts him into the lead at the beginning of lap 2, going through the hairpin. But this is where you're going to see the strong suit of my car. As I actually get such a good exit, I start pushing Hordes out of the turn. As you can see, I just start absolutely pulling ahead as we go into the Eau Rouge Radion part here, which puts me back up into first place, using a bit of extra track, but you know, sometimes shit happens and you just use a bit of extra track. So Hordes and myself now first and second, and if the camera shot pans to him, we should be able to see Kieran in third some time away. There he is. Now, our 3 cars, it was actually quite an interesting mix. I had the most speed by quite a long shot. Like, this car has, I think, somewhere around 540 horsepower. Hordes was the second fastest. He had, I don't know, probably 500 horsepower. And Kieran, as far as I know, that's a handling build GT, so that has less than 500 horsepower. So, yeah, I had the most power, but I had the least amount of handling as well. Kieran could basically go around my outside in pretty much any corner he would want to. With Hordes it was a bit more interesting. Some corners he could, other corners he couldn't. So yeah, it was definitely a very interesting set of cars to be racing around this track. And all of them worked. As you can see, it's only lap 2 and you basically can't see anyone behind us anymore. We've pretty much left them in the dust at the moment. As you can see, Hordes through these corners definitely gaining, having a bit of a look to the inside. Decides to tuck in behind me as well, but this is where we get to the strong part of the track. Basically from this corner onwards, it's really just straight line speed. The only part where they're making up time is from the end of the Kemmel Straight about to that corner that we exited from. We go up to Blanchimont here for the second time on lap 2, making the corner a bit better. Hordes actually getting on the grass a bit, which I think allows Kieran to catch up to him as well, as he can probably take that turn flat in the 4GT. Hordes there, side by side with Kieran, who goes for the cutback. Hordes running wide. I think he got on the AstroTurf, which pulled him wide. Not too sure though. But anyway, the order of us remains the same going onto this lap. And in this early part of the race, we were just sort of feeling it out, seeing, you know, what was going to happen. The action really started heating up in the second part of this race, as we're on lap 3 now. And so far, not too much to report of. As you can see, I have an even bigger gap now, as I've managed to get a really good run out of turn 1. It's such a strong suit of this car. It has really good traction in second gear. You can basically just floor it and it just blasts away. As I'm making up even more time on the straight, you can't even see Kieran anymore. That's how much time I've made up. Somewhere in the back there is his Ford GT, but of course he closes right back up, and this is the section where I am going to struggle. I do have a healthy gap here though, but that's going to quickly come down, as neither Kieran nor Hordes are really close enough to fight each other, so they can just sort of focus on catching up to me at this moment. And through this turn, that's really where you notice the car struggling. And in second gear, I just have to wait so long to finally get on the power, because it just won't turn otherwise. It's unfortunately something I think that's almost inherent with the R8, just because it has such a stupid aero balance. There's so little aero at the front and so much at the rear. As you can see, running a bit wide at Puan there as well, which is of course going to help Hordes and Kieran, although Kieran is now all over the back of Hordes, which is an issue as he looked for a move there. I don't think he managed to pull it off though. Yes, Hordes is still in second behind me, basically sitting on my rear bumper. So I go slightly defensive. He does have a bit of a look down the inside, manages to open the door just a bit as we go into this next turn. My power again will come in clutch, as I managed to just about hold it side by side on the outside at least, as Hordes is now definitely challenging me for this race lead. But that has slowed him down as well, which allows Kieran to pull up side by side as we go through this fast back section here. And I believe they're too wide going into Blanchimont, and they've managed to make it work. Bit of extra track, but it's all good. But I managed to somehow stay in the lead. I go slightly defensive here, put myself in the middle of the road, basically. Hordes tried looking down my inside, but Kieran actually seems to be the bigger winner here, as he almost got to the inside and managed to make that work. But of course, me hemming him in on the inside there means he can't carry as much corner speed, and because he doesn't have the power, he's going to lose out a lot more. In all of that, you might have spotted Hordes went into the pit lane. I think he realized that the fighting was starting to heat up. So it was definitely a smart move to go into the pit lane there to try and put himself into some clean air, distance himself from the battle for a bit to try and get into a rhythm, set some fast lap, and maybe jump one of us, if not maybe both of us. But yeah, you might have seen at the hairpin, the Losaurus hairpin, Kieran went out wide. I believe he was running sim steering for this race, and he was kind of struggling with that corner in particular. Not really sure why it was only that one, but yeah, he definitely lost quite a bit of time. But this is where he is really going to gain it back. I believe he has 0.4 more handling than I do, which in such a tightly homologated division as the GT Enduro division is, that is a pretty big difference. That's basically equivalent to having a 5.0 handling and a 6.0 handling B-class car. They're basically not even comparable. He can go around my outside essentially at will. So I'm going to have to try my best here to stay in front. Track position is going to be key for me. I don't really have the lap pace around here. All I have is my straight line speed and the fact that I'm in front at the moment. So that means it's going to be a defensive race for me, so far at least. And Kieran, as you can see, has definitely caught up from being so far behind as we exited the hairpin onto the Kemmel Straight, after having gone up Eau Rouge, of course. He is right on my rear bumper, essentially pushing me through that turn, as he makes a bit of a mistake again, drops back just a tad. But now comes my power section once more. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether he is going to pit. I believe we are currently on lap 4, I can't quite remember. Forza, of course, being one of the lovely games that doesn't have enough telemetry to tell you which lap you're on in a replay, but it do be like that sometimes. So into the chicane we go here once again for, I believe, should be the 4th time. And I go through the chicane and neither of us decides to pit, so that is going to hurt Kieran a bit, as I believe he does have the better raw pace. If I remember correctly, at the end of the race with the results, he did have a faster lap time by a fair margin over me. So him being stuck behind me through the handling sections where I can just sort of park the bus essentially is going to be hurting him, especially in regards to Hordes, because that was sort of the main person he was battling in this 3-way fight at the moment. However, he's had a better run out of the hairpin, so he is not quite as far back, but I'm still gaining massively, of course, due to my extra straight line speed. And I love that camera shot when you just see the car flying past. Absolutely perfect. Into the I believe this is, oh, what's this called? Lacoum, I think? Something like that. He's definitely a lot closer than he was last lap, so this is bad news for me at the moment. He was on my bumper towards the end of the handling section at the bottom of the hill, but now he's even closer than before, so I'm definitely in danger here of him just going past and taking my position. As we go into the no-name corner here, he is close, and especially through Puan, which is a high downforce corner. It's very fast. His handling is going to come in clutch. Absolutely. I am going to struggle here. I even missed the apex a bit. I think the tire's starting to wear a bit, run a bit wide. And you can just see how much time he makes up. He's basically flying through there as he closes up. Almost within range for a move there into this next chicane, but of course he thinks better of it as he's now, yeah, sitting basically on my diffuser going through that turn. I believe having just a slight look into there, but decides better of it as I missed the apex once again. Not really driving my best here, going through this fast corner, but luckily I've just about been able to keep him behind. He basically gave me a push out of that turn because I was going that slowly. Not intentionally, it's just my car won't turn otherwise. But yeah, this is good news for me. I've managed to just about stay ahead, so I do still have the track position over him, but we're approaching, or maybe even past the halfway point of this race, so it's about time we come in and pit, and the more we fight like this, we are going to be losing time to Hordes, so I'm going to decide to come into the pits, and Kieran is too, and that might have been a strategical mistake on his part, because had he stayed out maybe another lap, of course his tires are worn, but possibility is that because he would have had clean air, if he set a good lap, he might have been able to jump me, because there really wasn't much in it between the two of us when we would cross the line each lap. So if he just got a lap in where he went, I don't know, like half a second, maybe a second faster than when he was stuck behind me, he could have probably jumped me in the pits here. But behind me, so he's going to be still behind me once we exit, but it's also going to be interesting to see where Hordes comes out in all of this. It's been 2 laps since we pitted. You might have just spotted him there on the right hand side of your screen, as you can just see him exiting the hairpin there. I managed to come out in the lead, but between Kieran and Hordes it's going to be relatively close. Can't really tell who came out in front. Looks like Hordes and Kieran just behind him by a couple car lengths. So yeah, after all of that we end up in the same order, and I've actually managed to increase my gap to Hordes even more, and I believe Kieran had a poor pit exit as he ran very wide there. It is a very awkward one, to be fair. But yeah, that gives me a bit more safety margin, although Hordes has had a pretty good run onto this straight here, so he is definitely closing in a bit more, and once again he's going to have more handling. He's probably in a rhythm now after having been in clean air for 2 laps, so he will have a slight advantage over us. Yes, his tires are a bit more worn, but that's not such a huge factor in Forza. And Kieran is behind a bit now. He was kind of the one that lost out the most from this pit stop phase. Hordes and I ended up pretty even nevertheless, but as you can see, Hordes through those corners just making up that time, and it's going to be even worse through Puan, where he is definitely going to be closing up a bit more. Just about hitting the apex for me. Always a struggle in this car through those high downforce corners, basically pushing me through there as well, right on my rear bumper, looking for a move to the inside, but I still stand my ground. Not that it really matters, because he's going to look around the outside there, hold it side by side, but then he's going to have the inside for the next part, so I just have to yield and give him that position. Into the next turn though, he's going a bit defensive, as I could have maybe looked up the inside. Not that I could have pulled it off, but I could have definitely put him off his line, which could have brought Kieran into the fight. And it's a case of, now I'm still behind him, but now we're in the power section again, so I'm going to be able to pull past once again. And I swear, once we got into like 6th gear with the Audi, or even 5th, it was basically standing still compared to me. As we go side by side through Blanchimont, again, Kieran in close contention behind as well. Hordes going defensive in front of me. I still look to the inside here. Hordes and I going too wide, but Kieran is the big winner as he goes around the outside of both of us. That goes to show how much handling that Ford has. Hordes and I holding each other up, losing out. Great move from Kieran there, well played, but once again, just look at the speed of the Audi as I pull up side by side going into turn 1 here. Hordes also having a look down my inside, going side by side again. Get a bit of oversteer, banging some doors, but this is where my power comes in. Once again, threading the needle through the middle of them on the run up to Rouge. Managed to get myself into the lead once more, so after having dropped back to 3rd through the chicane, I managed to get back up into the lead there. I think Kieran getting a bit of a twitch, so Hordes had to take some evasive action to get past him. So he did get a better run, although we're still very close here on the straight as a pack. Horde side by side with me, which is definitely a novelty. He hasn't been side by side with me on any of the laps so far. You go too wide through the Kum here, Kieran behind us, basically stuck, but behind the two big German boys, not really able to do much if there's that much metal. You know, the big M8, it's a massive boy, and the R8 is pretty thick as well, so you can't really go around the outside of two of those cars. Or, well, he was able to at the chicane, so you never know, but it's definitely going to be a lot more difficult as we've gone too wide here through those last two turns. Kieran's still stuck behind us as we go into Puan. I'm on the outside here. I'm just going to have to yield essentially. I can try holding around the outside, but I basically slip in behind Hordes again. But Kieran has played that beautifully. He recognized I was going to be on the outside line for that turn, which I just couldn't hold, so he could put himself to the inside for the next turn. Very well played as he managed to get the move once again, and that means I'm now down to third as we're approaching the end of this handling section, but only 2 more corners to go and we'll be back to the power section where my car will definitely shine a lot more than theirs. But this now helps them because neither of them are holding each other up as much as I was holding up them, so they can make up a bit more margin here. So I'm now in a pretty bad spot as I've lost really my only strong asset so far in this race, which was track position, having started on pole and being able to lead the entire time essentially, as Kieran and Hordes do pull a bit of a gap, but Kieran looking for a move up the inside at the chicane. That's going to be slowing them down a bit. They go side by side through there. I get a bit of oversteer out of the final turn, and just look at the speed again. Basically like the 4GT is standing still, and even on the M8 I'm pulling up almost alongside into turn 1 as we go almost 3 wide through there. Kieran and I side by side, 2 wide as I'm pushing Hort's car out of the turn, and this is where I'm going to have an advantage once again, threading the needle for the 2nd lap in a row in the same spot. I managed to get myself into the lead once again, going into the Eau Rouge Radion section. Definitely helpful. Hordes pushing me up the turn there. Kieran in close contention behind. It's really heating up now towards the end of this race. I think Horde's missing a shift there actually as he drops off the back of me, and Kieran starts gaining on him as we go into Lake Kum. That's going to set Kieran up to go up the inside. So they're going to go side by side, and this is of course good news for me, is them two fighting here and side by side means they'll be losing time. They won't be able to capitalize as much on my lesser handling, so they can't make up as much time as they would usually do as we go into, I believe this is the Brussels corner, I'm not too sure though. Kieran now in front of Hordes, so going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't think Kieran has been in front of Hordes at this section of the track yet so far this race, so we'll have to see. Going into Puan, of course, Kieran will definitely be able to just absolutely fly through this long turn. Hordes, though, also in a strong handling car, and you can just see how much time they make up on me once again as we head into this next chicane. Kieran on my bumper, essentially, into this next turn. I mean, I can try and defend. I was on the inside, but it's no use when he can just swoop around the outside like that. I do manage to block off Hordes, though, even though he is sniffing my exhaust fumes through there. Into this next turn, I'm on the inside again. Hordes around the outside. Is he going to be able to do it? Not quite. We hold it side by side just about, but then I do yield because I knew I wasn't going to get it turned. So that puts Kieran in the lead now into this power section. Hordes in second, a bit of a ways behind him, and then me. So this is a new constellation, not one we've seen before so far. But pulling up right onto Hordes' rear bumper, going into Blanchimont, having to back off a bit because otherwise I would have probably ran him wide into the chicane here. I believe this is the 2nd to last lap, and it's not looking good for me. Kieran having a bit of a gap now on both of us. I get a poor exit, or a poor line through the entire chicane. I think Hordes gets on the AstroTurf again, running out quite wide, but yeah, not looking good for me. Kieran definitely in the hot seat at the moment. If he can stay ahead into Eau Rouge, that's definitely going to be a big bonus. I doubt that even if he takes Eau Rouge perfectly, he won't be able to stay ahead going into Lake Kum. The Camel Straight is simply too long, and he does lack the top end compared to both of our cars. And he gets a twitch up there that's going to absolutely kill his momentum as well. Hordes now in the driver's seat to take his position as he tucks in behind for the slipstream. I'm a bit too far away from all of this, as I believe Hordes pulls up side by side as they go into Lake Kum. Looking around the outside, is he going to be able to do it? looks like they're still side by side. This of course allows me to catch up once again as they're compromising their handling advantage they have over me through the section, still side by side as they go into the Brussels corner, and Hordes finally manages to slip ahead into the lead now, but Kieran managed to just about open that door once again, so they're side by side into the no-name corner. I'm just behind all of this, trying to keep up with my lesser handling. They run side by side through there, using all of the track and just a bit more. Hordes now ahead into Puan here. It's definitely a hard-fought race, and it's really heated up towards the end here, as they still have the advantage essentially, because they're able to make up more time. Even if they're stuck behind each other and fighting, they're losing less time than they would if they were stuck behind me, if that makes sense. Here though, through the chicane, manages to get ahead with a nice move once again, puts him into the lead. And I've not really dropped off through this entire handling section because they've just been that busy fighting for position. It's been position swaps between Kieran and Hordes the entire time essentially as we exit onto this back fast section for the final time this race. They definitely have a bit of a gap to me, so it's not looking too great. I really got to nail this last section here, get a good exit, and maybe hope for them to mess something up or go side by side or something if I want a chance at winning this race. And it looks like Hordes swiping all over the back of Kieran's car, going to the outside for the chicane. I think he's going to try it and set up for the mega run out of the second part of the chicane. Cuts back to the inside. They go side by side on the exit. I think Hordes is going to have that, as he does have more straight line speed. And he gets in front and wins the race, and I just about catch up there. That was a really close race. So yeah, that was about that for this race. I hope you enjoyed. I apologize if the editing is a bit poor. I'll have to see what I can do. I'm currently voicing this over as I'm watching it back before even editing it. But yeah, that's about all I have to say. Thank you for watching. Maybe you'll see some more of this content in the future. But until whenever the next time is, goodbye.